within anything that has to do with tech generally, you basically tell me you know about data analysis, web development, but then Microsoft Power Platform is bubbling. Trust me on this. If you've been looking for a way to get into tech, there's a lot of I can't say Microsoft is low code, no code, which means there isn't much code, but you still need to code. And then you still need to apply your mind to do a lot of critical thinking as well. So I'm not going to just deceive you and say, this thing is the simplest thing you're going to do. But then I think if you get into this space, you fully understand. So let me get to the screen and start the presentation. Over the next maybe 15 minutes, I'm going to introduce you to what the Microsoft Power Platform is. I'm going to explain it. If you have any question, any confusion, if you don't even understand at the end of the presentation, I won't be surprised because it's something that is completely new. But then just give me your attention for the next 30 minutes or so, and then hopefully we're going to entertain question and answers before we call it a day. Maybe a maximum of 1 hour with Google. And as it has always been told to me, um, I tend to speak very fast, right? I'm always told to calm down, especially when I'm doing presentations like this. So if at any point you feel I'm too fast, please call my attention. All right, now to the business of the day. Welcome. We're going to be talking about the Microsoft Power Platform. So the Microsoft Power Platform basically came into being. It's been around for a while, but majorly around 2018, right? That's when it became the Microsoft Power Platform. So Microsoft had developed a product called Power BI. They had a couple of products they have been building over a while. Now, if you ask me, basically what's the Microsoft Power Platform or who are those made for? They're made basically for three people. For someone who already has experience in one, for someone who already has experience developing, that's for building the solutions. Two, for someone who has experience with Microsoft technologies, whether Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and the rest, right? And then three, someone who absolutely has no background completely in tech or using Microsoft technologies. Of course, the learning curve will be steeper for such a person, but then these are the three main people that it is built for. And the demand for this skill is not on this side of the Pacific. I like to say that it is most likely abroad. If you begin to work within the space, most of your clients will be people who are not in Nigeria, because the solution itself, the platform, has been readily deployed across the world. I think I need to be coming in to admit people. They're all in. So basically, it's deployed around the world. So Microsoft Power Platform is tied to what we call Microsoft 365, right? What that basically is a subscription that companies and individuals pay to Microsoft to get access to what we generally call Office 365. That is PowerPoint, Word, Excel, and the likes. So the ones we are used to for document editing and creating slides. But beyond that, Microsoft has a very, very large ecosystem of technologies they've built. And unfortunately, people are mostly open to just the very, very few, the very bare minimal. So you're just open to Word, Excel, and the rest. But then there are much more, right? And then the reason why you're not really too open to them is because the space within which these technologies are operated is within the context of an enterprise. What I mean by an enterprise is companies that have workers, maybe 100, 1,000, companies that have branches across. So for the optimization of the management of documents and human resource, they need a platform that will be able to manage their data for them. Now, that's how Microsoft Power Platform came in. Microsoft were basically trying to give their customers who are subscribers of Microsoft 365 an avenue to leverage on or to get more value for their money. So you've already bought the license, and then Microsoft Power Platform comes with it, and then all you need to do is to just run automations. There are a lot of crazy things people are doing out there with Microsoft Power Platform, and I think I will drop a couple of links after this so that you can just look it up, look at what it entails, and all that. So it's very funny that I began without introducing myself, and I have not really made I've not really thought so much about that because I just really wanted to be focused on what we'll be having today. So, my name is Panshak Jeremiah Kopruda. As maybe you've seen on the links I've dropped to my profile, I'm what we call a low code developer. I'm a data bender, which means I love to work with data a lot. And then I am a digital visual engineer. So, that's the part of me that works with graphic design for short. So as a local developer, I've been in this space for 2 years now, as I told you. I think over 2 years now because I started in 2021. So I've been building my career within this line. And basically what I've been doing in my undergraduate years is organize what I'm doing right now, but in physical events. Maybe some people on this call have attended one or two events I've pioneered before. So now, Microsoft Power Platform. What is it? Microsoft Power Platform is basically a suite of low code and no code tools. So it is, imagine the Microsoft Power Platform as a toolbox, right? And basically what you are doing is you're picking different tools from it, and probably you're assembling it to build a bigger, much more robust project or system, or you're using one individually, right? So if a carpenter, for instance, goes to site, he might have something like a nail gun, his hammer, he might have a chisel, a cutting machine, and all those kind of things. And then basically what he uses each and every of those tools to do is to furnish a table, a chair, whatever it is he's working with. Now, I'm using that analogy to bring to your understanding what Microsoft Power Platform is. It's a suite of tools, right? And you put it all together to furnish data. Let me allow that sink in. You're basically furnishing data with the tools provided with the Microsoft through the Microsoft Power Platform. So I'll go into the various tools, but I want you to get that right. So you're basically furnishing data. You're basically working with data, working with what we call processes, right? I'll use a couple of examples that are relatable to people who are in school. And these tools enables users to build custom business solutions, right? So if I use the word custom business solutions, someone might exempt himself to say, okay, I'm not a business person, right? But what we mean by business solution is the word business can be interchangeably used with the word enterprise, right? Now, enterprise is a much more encompassing word because enterprise will include NGOs, enterprise will include government offices. Schools also can fall under the category of enterprises, basically. So you're not going to be limited to just say, okay, it's just for business people. But then any structure that is enterprise based, that has a goal, has to manage people, has to manage documents, has to manage system and processes, falls under the category of an enterprise. Falls under the category of an enterprise. So now, and then these are the solutions you build without requiring extensive programming skills. Emphasis on the word extensive. It means some programming skills are actually will provide you some leverage, but they are not absolutely necessary to build the solutions. The platform includes 5 main components, and we're going to be looking at them shortly. Now, anytime I'm teaching about the Microsoft Power Platform, I feel this image summarizes everything that concerns the Microsoft Power Platform, right? So there are basically 5 different tools within the Microsoft Power Platform, and then you're not going to see one here because Microsoft has begun to develop it on the side for other purposes, right? But we still consider it under the net of Microsoft Power Platform that you have 5 of them. Now these are going to be things that are quite new to you. Some have heard of what Power BI is for before. So Power BI is basically a tool you use for data visualization. So for some people who have done projects, or some of the things you're already familiar with are charts that you build already, line charts or bar charts. What you do is you're trying to represent data in a diagram, right? My friend will fondly say that data visualization is the process of turning numbers to colors. Basically, that's what you're doing. You're trying to see ways that you have a set of data, um, two major sets of data we have. I think is it numerical data, which is the one you're able to is it quantitative and qualitative. So you're basically trying to turn those forms and those types of data, and you're trying to change them to colors so that it can give meaning to people. People can look at it, see it, and then actually draw certain conclusions. So data analysis is a growing field, and one of the fields you can take within the Microsoft space is data analysis, and Microsoft Power BI will be the tool that is most handy to you. So if someone already who is a data analyst and is on this call, you can also look within the Microsoft Power Platform and focus only on Power BI, right? Now there's this slogan we always say: they are powerful on their, they are good on their own, but they are powerful together. So I'm very sure some of us are familiar with Power BI to an extent, or we're familiar with the word data analysis, business analytics in this context, and that's what Power BI is for. Power BI is basically divided into two. You have a desktop version of Power BI, and you have Power BI Online, which is Power BI service. So the desktop is what you're going to be using majorly. I'm going to, it's if you have a laptop, for those who do, you're going to be given access to that. And for those who are on this call, I think I'm going to give you for those who will be very serious, I'm going to be monitoring this. I'm going to give you access to the license, and then we're going to see how you can begin to work with these things, build a project or two, and then with your growing interest, you can see how we can scale. So we have Power Apps for app development. Basically, it will shock you, which is one of the things I'll be teaching a class this evening, and I'll be teaching them how to make an app in about 15 minutes using Microsoft Power Apps. So we're just going to do a couple of things, and then the app is going to be fully functional. I think if you go to my LinkedIn, you're going to see an app that one of my students created earlier in the middle of the year. So Power Apps is for app development, enterprise app development. So when we begin to niche down to all the technologies, you're probably going to understand Power Apps better. But I call Power Apps a data aggregation app application. So some people, funny enough, they call it a glorified form, right? But basically, what you're doing is that you're trying to aggregate data. What I mean by that is that you're trying to, the word aggregate is just to put data together, try to give it form in such a way that when your data passes through Power App, it is almost visualization ready, to the point where you can even visualize your data within Microsoft Power Apps, right? So it's just a way of managing and aggregating data. You have data already that is available, you can manage it with Power Apps. On the side of management, it has to do with analytics, interaction with the application, and then for the side of aggregation, basically data collection, data manipulation, and the rest. So those are the two main things you use Power Apps to do. So for those of you trying to think of building WhatsApp, sorry to burst the bubble, we're not using Microsoft Power Apps to build WhatsApp. And then we have Power Automate, which is for process automation. So if you want to click a button and have a process begin, or you want to create a scenario where when someone calls you, or when someone sends you an email, you want to extract the attachment and do a couple of things, you can actually do that with Microsoft Power Automate. Power Automate is stemmed across different it's basically used to work to build the automotive part of Power Apps. So for instance, if you're using WhatsApp, there are certain things you don't do for yourself. There's certain things that are automated, things like notifications. You just need to turn it on or turn it off. So there is a part of the application that is built that is basically automated, right? It just needs to be created, automated. It needs to be served automatically, and then that's what Power Automate is about. Now, under Power Automate, we have different types of flows. We have the desktop flow, and we have the robotic process automations, and then we also have the cloud flows. So for the robotic process automation, very fancy name, right? You get to create automations within your desktop or on your desktop, where with or without your aid, the computer itself will carry out certain things. It will carry out certain actions. So on your behalf, in situations and cases where you're not physically present or to even carry out certain actions, you're going to create a system using Microsoft Power Automate that will channel all the actions you want to take on a particular task. Now, Power Automate, as we're going to get to know in the course of the class, what it does is that it's going to give you the opportunity, as I said, to build a system that is going to work on repetitive tasks. So if there's anything you're going to be doing on Microsoft 365 or maybe even on Google that will require you to do it automatically, you need to automate all the time. I'll give you an example. When you're creating a form and you want people to get an email, for instance, when you submit certain forms online, you get an automatic email. Oh, hello, Panshak. We are glad you've now joined us. Thank you for your interest in this. You understand those kind of things. So after filling the form, an instant response. So rather than waiting, okay, for instance, let me use the scenario of this class, for instance. So if I send a form to the class, I'll have somewhere back on the back end where I created the form, a place where I will see all the fields you've been able to fill, all your information. So someone comes in, for instance, I'll use my friend Redmoon as an example. She comes in, she fills in her name, and then she imputes her email. So imagine I'll have to go and pick the email, copy it from the back end, go to my own email and paste. Hey Redmoon, I see that you registered for the class. Hoping to see you by this time. These are the details. These are other links you could use to begin to look at certain videos, begin to watch certain videos before the class begins, and then I send it. And then another registration comes in, and then I do same. Another one comes in, and I do same. I might even try to be smart and just copy and paste, right, and just change the name. All right, that makes sense. But then that is me repeating it. Now I can create an automation so that anytime she fills the form, this is just like the simplest example and I will give, and we're going to try it out in the course of the next 2 days. And immediately she fills the form, immediately she clicks submit. In a matter of 4 5 seconds, she already gets an automated email from me with all the things. So I'll just create one email, attach it to the form, and immediately someone submits it and the email is confirmed to be legit, the person is going to receive an email from me automatically. So that's how Power Automate works. As long as you have repeated tasks, Power Automate can come in. And then for a part that is quite exciting, which is Power Pages. So Power Pages, the way I'm like to put it is that Microsoft are really big on security, especially when it comes to data and data governance. So what happens is certain files are not supposed to be for public consumption, but then you also want to collect data from the public. So you create what we call an external facing website where people can see part of the data, create their own as well, but won't have access to the general records, right? So that's the idea of Power Pages. Even though you can now extend the abilities of Power Pages to build very robust websites and all those things. Now, the very interesting things, the very interesting thing about um Power Platform generally is that it's been developing over the period of, I think, over the past 5 years now. So when I got in, Power Pages was not there, right? Power Apps was still crude, and a lot of things have not developed to the point they are now. Now I am very much excited to see the developments that Microsoft will bring in the future, right? And it's one of the reasons why I'm still within the industry, because I know that this platform is growing, and the earlier I get in, the better. I'll have certain advantages of knowing certain things from the past, right? Most of the people who are industry leaders now within this space are people who have been doing it for a while, and they have certain advantages. So it is continually growing. Um, Power Virtual Agent is what we call Copilot Studio today. It has grown, right? You can now build your own GPT itself. That's, you can build your own chat GPT, send certain documents to it, and make it respond to people's prompts, right? So what that will mean is that when you are actually, you've created, like, let's say let's assume you have a book, you can upload it to Copilot Studio, which is the fifth arm of the Microsoft Power Platform. Then you can have the AI system built into Copilot, which is actually ChatGPT, large language models, and it will read the document, and you can begin to send in prompts. You can begin to ask questions. So if you want a summary about a book, you can just upload the documents there. Normally, what you do with ChatGPT, but now you are narrowing it down to the data you have made available to it. Let me use the word, the literature you've made available to it. And then the fifth thing you can see on this diagram is Power FX. Power FX is for the, what's it called? Is the code we use. So Power FX is Excel like, right? It's like Excel formulas. And basically what you use Power FX to do is to build Microsoft Power Apps, or in Power BI is called DAX, in Power Automated Expressions, in Power Pages is also Power FX. So it's basically the code you use to build. And then we have Dataverse, which is the platform where you store all your data. It is created automatically. And then you also have AI Builder. AI Builder is the part where it gets really, really exciting, where you have artificial intelligence read information from a handwritten form, you know. So it's very, very interesting. And then these are the kind of things I would like to open you up to in the next 2 days. So let me get back to the core and get some feedback. If you're excited about what's going to be happening in the next 2 days, drop a reaction. Let's see. All right. Wow. In all honesty, I have to take that break to eat some popcorn. Then we are back. So this is what basically we've been looking at. This is what we've listed: the Microsoft Power Platform, Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Pages. The exciting part is not about just the explanation, but this is necessary for you to have an understanding of what we're going to be doing in the next 2 days. So you and I have at most 3 hours between today and Thursday, where we'll be meeting to have discussions about the Microsoft Power Platform. All right, now back to the slides. As I said, everything that has to do with Microsoft Power Platform is captured in that page. If you want, I'll send the slide to the group after this class so that you can go through it. So the platform connect, very important. So what makes your use of Microsoft Power Platform a superpower, let me call it that thing, is what we call connectors. Connectors basically link one part of Microsoft Power Platform to the other, one tool to the other, and also to other external tools, tools within Microsoft 365 and also tools outside the Microsoft 365. So these connectors are responsible for the exchange of data. The connectors are responsible for getting response from certain application, getting certain information from them, and the likes. And in the Power Apps class, I think we're going to look at connectors, and then that will give you more light to what connectors are. And then, as I mentioned, we have AI Builder, which is used to give AI power to Microsoft Power Platform. The Dataverse is the best and the most recommended data source to use. And then they can all stand alone and are optimized in power when connected to other tools. So you can see a solution you're building. So I want you to also be familiar with the terminologies we use. When we use the word solution, we are likely referring to you combining one or more of this. So you can have just one, you can have a solution with Power Apps, right? But it's a full blown end to end solution when you have it combined with Power Automate, Power BI, and then Power Pages and the rest. So that's the general idea. The pair that go together mostly is Power Apps and then Power Automate, and then Power Apps and Power Pages and the rest. So there's a little circle there. Then you have Copilot on the side a little bit, which you can bring in, and you have Power BI, which is responsible primarily for data visualization within the Microsoft Power Platform. Okay, it's another advantage. The other advantage is the fact that all these tools can be integrated, as I mentioned. That's what makes them powerful. And then especially for the fact that you already have an existing system of Microsoft Office suite that you're working with, and you get to connect those suites. So you can just use Power Automate to connect maybe something like SharePoint or Microsoft Form to OneDrive and the likes. So that's basically what you can do. So tools within the within Microsoft 365 or Office 365, as you like to call it, can be connected and be optimized using these tools. Now, this can be used to create a composite whole to serve a business purpose, which is what a solution is called. Now, why business? Because the emphasis is that it is an enterprise tool. At the moment, you can't, as I said, you can't create WhatsApp using Power Apps. And then even if you create it, you can only share your app to people who are within your organization. Now, you better understand this when I give you the license, where the applications you create are only going to be accessible to people who are within this group. This catchment of people here are the people who will be able to see your application, right? So you can share it with me, or I can share it with other people on your behalf. But after you've created the application, one of the things that will be needed is for you to share it, and then that's when it has now become a deployed solution. So the apps are going to be used within a school. If the school setting is what you're using, a hospital, if it's a hospital setting, if it's a government organization, same. So I always try to emphasize this because it's very important for you to understand that Microsoft Power Platform is an enterprise tool. And the enterprises that will use Microsoft Power Platform are enterprises that already have Microsoft 365 as a subscription. I think you can look it up to see how much you pay in Naira to get that. So that should really set the perspective. That's why you understand why a lot of organizations here don't use it, because you pay in dollars. First introduced in 2018, as you can see, it has evolved, as I mentioned, from 2018, but I only got to know about it, I think 2 or 3 years after it was fully packaged into the word Microsoft Power Platform. And it has been evolving ever since. I really love the trends I see within the space, and for a lot of reasons, people don't know about its existence. Many people have heard of it, and it's mostly due to the fact that it is relegated to, as I will always emphasize, enterprises. So most people who work within enterprises will likely have heard of Microsoft Power Platform, but for those people who are outside, I mean, most likely not. So by combining these tools, you're able to by combining these tools in a single platform, Microsoft aimed to provide a comprehensive solution for businesses looking to automate their workflows and analyze their data more effectively. The central word for the Microsoft Power Platform is the word data. It might not seem obvious, or it might seem cliche, that anytime you talk about technology, you talk about data, because it's no surprise, right? ICT stands for Information Communication Technology. So it's about exchange of information, data for short. So everything you're going to be doing within the Microsoft Power Platform is centered on how to manage data, analyze it, automate the creation of data, whichever form it might be. It is data centered, right? And you know of the new slang where they say data is the new oil. So as much as possible, organizations don't want to let their data slide through the cracks. So basically, what they want to do is to create this system that helps and allow them to optimize and maximize their data. The individual tools, are you ready? We've done this already, then we're going over it again. So we have Power Apps, a tool for building custom mobile applications that can be connected to data sources and workflows, used to shorten app development cycle from idea to production. So the rationale behind creating Microsoft Power Apps is the fact that if we have an app developer here and you ask them how long does it take on average to create an application, it might last up to maybe 3 months. It might be 6 months, depending on which solution you're building, and so on and so forth. So it becomes quite difficult for enterprises to pay, and most times they have to pay through their noses. So Microsoft thought, okay, if these enterprises already have Microsoft 365 and they are setting applications that are just very simple you can create, rather than taking out money to come give the developer to build the app again, they already have the idea of the app. Why don't they get what they call low code or citizen developers like myself to work on their already existing data and to bring up simple solutions they can use for their organization? That's what Power Apps was used for. That's what prompted the creation of Microsoft Power Apps. I hope I'm making sense. So it's used basically to cut down the life cycle of the development of applications, the resources required, the fact that after creating your app, you have to look for a hosting platform. Microsoft will host your app for you automatically on Microsoft 365. They've cut down a lot of the things they need to do. And then there's an interesting trend that's been around for a while now with my Power Apps called Microsoft Power Wrap, where you can create an application and make it accessible to people on iOS and people who use Android as well. It's something that is developing, is already out there, people are using it already, but then it's some of the developments that I'm really, really looking forward to, and I hope you are as well. Power BI for visualization. This is the part everybody loves and enjoys. And then we have Power Automate. As I said, as you can see, the robotic workflows, and then it's to streamline and optimize processes. So one of the examples I would love to give here is, imagine when you are doing your clearance, right? For those who are in the university, or who those who have finished, or maybe you're doing registration in the university in your freshman year. Ah, God, this is so American. In your 100 level, when you were freshers. So what happened was that you had to pick a document, hard copy, from one office to the other, have it signed, have your documents checked, and all those kind of things. So you can, that is a process, right? Anywhere you see the word business, you can substitute it with the word enterprise. That is an enterprise process. The process from getting yourself from being a fresher to being someone with a matric number. The whole goal of the, if you're to draw a little roadmap of registration process, you see that you have step by step, and if you multiply that by the number of students you have per department, you see that you are repeating a lot of tasks. That's where automation comes in. So instead of expending your hours, your energy, signing documents, going through the documents and everything, one of the things you could do is you could have the students upload all their information to either Power Pages or Power App. So for things like maybe let's say the department, have a look. Okay, we have 15 more minutes. So things like the Department of Computer Science, who have a secretary, they can basically have the secretary at her desktop collect the information of the student and upload their information, all their files as PDFs, right? And then you can have AI go through the files to look at the information and categorize all the PDFs the students have sent with their names attached to it, so that what will happen is that the lecturer will now come and sort, go through each and every one of them, and then by the time they are done, students they are going to reject will be sent a rejection email. Sorry, we cannot accept you in the Department of Computer Science. Please go on to Biological Education Science or consider another faculty, something like that. Now, they don't even need to meet the lecturer, and the lecturer doesn't even need to know who those who are rejected, right? All of them just get it. Then those who are accepted will now be sent a link to send further information about themselves. And by the time they are done, they are going to receive their, what's it called, after all the information has been collected, and even the biodata form, the one you sign about swearing you're not a cultist, all those kind of things. By the time all those things are aggregated and collected, the school already has Microsoft 365 as a as part of their enterprise, of the subscription they've bought for the school. So all the lecturers have what we call unique identifiers or emails. So the school will now begin to keep your records online rather than having stack of files in the office. You see how Power Platform is becoming very handy. And then after you have that process, students will get their matric number at the end of it sent to their email, and then a congratulatory letter or whatever, and then an option to also print if that's what they want and bring it to the department. That way you have now cut down a lot of body movements, a lot of tiredness, a lot of repetition, right? And they can also do same for results, where you're going to have your results sent to you in your email and things like that. The university where I come from, we have a Microsoft subscription, and all of us are given what we call our login details. That's what we use for our school website and everything to access our portal. But that itself is an email. So those are the kind of things um, Microsoft Power Platform is used for, and specifically Power Automate. Then Power Virtual Agent is what has now become Copilot Studios. As I mentioned, I might not touch Copilot Studios. I might just give a brief overview. And due to the length of this class, I'm looking at a way around getting, maybe I would have loved to use Teams, because with Teams I can continue for up to 3 hours or so. I have premium, but I don't have premium for this. And then we're already out of time. And then you have Power Pages, as I mentioned, for building forward facing websites. Thank you. This is the end of the slide. I think, how many minutes do we have? We are almost done. So this is where I will now take in questions and answer. Thank you very much. I'll be dropping a poll in the, what's it called, in the group. Okay, if you have a question, you can do well to raise your hand, and or you can just type it in the chat, because some people can be shy.